Welcome, everyone, and happy Thursday. It is noon Eastern time here in Ambler, Pennsylvania, the booming metropolis just outside of Philadelphia, PA. And Thursday, noon Eastern, you know what that means. It is time for Talent Experience Live, the show that covers everything that you need to know in talent acquisition, talent management, recruiting, human resources as a whole, and of course, artificial intelligence. This program is proudly brought to you by the good folks here at Phenom, whose purpose is, stop me if you've heard this before, to help 1 billion find the right work. That is why we host this program every single Thursday, why we have our other great podcast with Cliff Yerkowitz monthly on Mondays called Unusual Attitudes, why we have a plethora of webinars, blogs, events, and everything else in between. So if you're interested in any more of the topics that we cover in the program, you can always head on over to phenom.com to learn more. But the way that we truly help 1 billion find the right work is not through webinars. It's not through blogs. It is through our Intelligent Talent Experience platform, which helps candidates find the right fit faster, employees evolve in their current roles and beyond, recruiters achieve next level productivity and efficiency, and managers get to build better teams through data, automation, and analytics. You can find all of that information at phenom.com, where also you'll learn more about AI and automation, which is what we are talking about today. I think the past, I'll call it a year, has truly changed the entire world, but very much so the recruiting and talent acquisition world, as there was a need, an itch that needed to be scratched when it came to the candidate experience and expectations being higher. And fantastic career sites and personalization have all aided to that. But the next evolution of scratching that itch is through artificial intelligence. And today, we're going to be talking about reimagining candidate conversations with voice AI. And I have an expert in that, a very special guest, Joanna Keel, joining me today to chat about voice AI. How are you, Jalen?
Well, hello, Devin. I'm great. How are you?
I am wonderful. This is the highlight of my week, doing Talent Experience Live, of course. And it's even better now that you're here.
Yeah, Thursday is the new Friday.
Yes, Friday Junior, as my daughter's teachers call it, which is a fun thing for them. Fridays are pizza Fridays. It's tough to compete.
Gosh.
But we're doing our best with this program here
Yes.
on Thursdays. How have you been? It's been a little while since you've been on the show.
Yeah, it's been a while. Made it through I Am Phenom.
Yes.
What a fantastic experience. And now here we are into summer. I thought things maybe would calm down a little bit, but there's this thing called agents. I don't know if you've heard them around Phenom or not. Yeah, there's a lot of work going into those.
Yes, there's a lot of agents in general, and a lot of work that comes along with that. But yeah, we made it through I Am Phenom. A couple huge groundbreaking announcements that came out. I know a couple weeks ago we talked about some of the fraud detection, but the other thing that has really garnered a lot of attention from the community is voice agents. So I want to ask you, how does that work in recruitment? What is a voice agent?
Oh my God, what is a voice agent? Well, if you went to TikTok, you're going to see someone standing in front of a microphone doing lots of different dialects, different speeds. Quite entertaining, by the way. But a voice agent, what is that in recruitment? That is an AI agent that uses natural speech to talk. So same way that you and I are carrying on a conversation, that is exactly what this voice agent does. It is not there to replace the recruiter. Think of it as the recruiter's buddy.
Okay.
To help them extend themselves and copy and paste into 100 different recruiters and talking to 100 different candidates, maybe all at the same time. That's what voice agent is.
I love that concept. I'll take it a step further. It's almost like an administrative assistant, right? I used to work in sales, and a voice agent isn't a gatekeeper by any means, but it is certainly there to alleviate some of the stresses that a recruitment or an individual in talent acquisition may have, right?
Yes.
100 conversations at once sounds fantastic when you hear about the thousands and thousands of applications that are coming in for one role. I want to ask you, you mentioned that it's natural language, right?
Yes.
We've used that same terminology for chatbots, and also I think everyone at home is familiar with the voice operating systems. When you call into your big tech cable company or whatever, it's press 2 for more options or whatever it may be. How is this different than that?
Oh, that's a really good question. So unlike those sorts of technologies, it's all that natural language. And what does that mean? That means you can answer it like a prompt. I don't even want to say Alexa on this call because if someone's listening at home, their device is going to pick up and I'm now ordering something off their Amazon and I don't want to get in trouble for that. But it is that. So think of the way that I would ask you a question. That's how a voice agent is going to behave. A chatbot uses, it's not natural language, or oftentimes it's someone typing it in, right? And then kicking back a response. It is not like a rigid phone menu either. So when you call your prescription, press 9. Do you want pharmacy? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it's not pharmacy. A voice agent knows. It can hear that in the dialect. It understands, and it can actually answer in a cadence and in a prompt based on the question.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get that. That's my favorite response. It's like, what do you mean you didn't get it? I'm talking to you. I always just spam 0 as well whenever I call into those things to try and talk to you.
Just hopefully it overrides the system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work.
No,
and this sounds like a much better solution where you can kind of talk colloquially. Colloquial? Is that the right word?
It could be, sure.
Use your native tongue,
yes.
I guess, in order to have some of these conversations where you aren't forced or pigeonholed to answer yes or no or kind of binary questions. You can expand upon it a bit more. I want to ask, as we expand upon this topic, why are they becoming so popular, especially for some of these high volume roles? It seems like people can't get enough of the voice agent. Yeah,
well, let me ask you this just in your personal life. If your phone rings, do you answer it?
Sometimes, but yes, I do.
You're in a meeting. You're going to answer your phone right now?
So no, not right now.
Oh.
I'll explain after. No, I do not answer. But now I'll tell you a story about this.
So that's why.
Okay.
Between the common working hours, 9 to 5, right? This is when the recruiters are picking up that phone and they're calling and they're screening and they're trying to get a hold of someone. No one's answering. They're getting voicemails and still don't have this lineup of candidates. So this is where that helps. It steps in. And so for that normal voicemail journey, it's helping alleviate that. So by removing that voicemail journey, voice agents can take that over. So which means you're going to get higher response rates. What does that mean in screening? Well, if you get 100 people screened, that means the likelihood of finding that top candidate is much higher, right? And now you know, okay, if you have 100 people screened, maybe you're moving on 50, depending on how many you're hiring, to the next interview stage, right? Yeah. So often it's so hard to get people on the phone, and that's why voice agent is really winning.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hold on, I have to take this. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
If it's a recruiter, answer it.
It is. No, I the reason why I said yes, I'm an anomaly. I like to do funny voices when I answer for some of these telemarketer people and things like that, and I get a lot of calls for Karen. So if you're out there, Karen, your Subaru is no longer under warranty. I just want to let you know right now. But you're absolutely right. There is a time and a place where I won't answer the phone. Dinner time, things like that.
Yeah.
And candidates and recruiters both have hectic schedules. I think since we've transitioned out of the kind of COVID era work, right, where people are returning to office, but we still don't necessarily have boundaries. It's not crazy for someone to take a work call at 8 p.m., right? It's not crazy for a candidate to have a rough day at work and then call because they got an email at 8 p.m. about something that's due tomorrow, right? And what you're saying is that this extends the hours of operations for recruitment teams where they can kind of start the process without a human having to dedicate that time. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. And think of it too on the flip side. You're a candidate and a recruiter's calling you right now. And you're like, oh my God, I want to get this call. But you're at work.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You can't get it, right? Nope. So, and now you're like, well, I can't call at 7 when I'm out of work. Yep. So even from the candidate point of view, that's really helping them feel heard, feel valued, get excitement about that next job. So it's not only a win for the recruiter, it's a win for the candidate as well.
Absolutely. It sounds like we're talking very early on stages for these voice agents.
Yeah.
Is that typically when they are leveraged most effectively, is for kind of that screening process, or is there a use case further down the line as well? What are you seeing?
Yeah. So, what are we seeing? What are the use cases? So, what are we seeing? We're seeing it in pre-screening.
Okay.
Why are we seeing it there? Because it is new.
Mhm.
And we're seeing people that voicemail journey, like I said, really plugging it in there on that particular role. They are not saying, I want a voice agent across every single role that I am hiring. No, they're looking at their roles saying, this is my rinse and repeat role. Maybe it's a nurse that works really long hours, and there's not a recruiter who reflects those sorts of things. Maybe you're in transportation, you're hiring drivers, whatever, right? Think of those roles where the recruiter hours don't line up necessarily to the role hours. Those are great roles to actually use the voice agent on. So where are we seeing the usage? It's there. Other use cases that we know are coming, and you can use them now, but exit interviews. Someone's leaving, right? The recruiter has so much going on. They're trying to hire for the new role, and that oftentimes gets dropped. Well, now you're sort of able to complete that full picture for your organization, or, why you may have lost this employee to somewhere else, right?
Yeah. That's an interesting little caveat there of exit interviews, because it also may give, not for every position, but it may give the former employee the opportunity to kind of be more transparent,
Yes.
right? With some of this feedback. It can be intimidating to talk to a human, especially if you know that the human you're talking to could be friendly with the hiring manager that made you leave, right? Or whatever that case may be. It makes sense. The pre-screening, the off hours that you mentioned, I think of my father who works, he's a over-the-road truck driver for UPS. He is a team driver. His partner who rides with him drives throughout the middle of the night. If they want to find a new job, who's going to interview him at 3 o'clock in the morning?
No one. The voice agent. That's who.
Exactly. And I'm thinking of the evolution of this, which could be, a text to a onboarding employee that says, hey, if you have any questions, call this number. Our voice agent is available 24/7 for you to answer. Anything it can't, I'll follow up with you. But you have this as a resource from now till your start.
Yeah, right? That's right. And that's the beautiful thing about Phenom too. When we're designing, we're not designing to solve for a challenge, right? We're designing to solve for multiple challenges, and every solution's flexible enough to meet that need. So you could even look at internal mobility. Maybe you're like, you know what? I have performance reviews coming up, and I really want to make sure our employees are really motivated to take a step up in their career. You could even use it for those sorts of use cases too. So all of these are kind of being born because people are taking a step back. They're having this time back that they never got, right? Because they're doing a little bit less screening. They're doing a little bit less scheduling. So guess what? Now they can really think about the big picture of talent acquisition and talent management. And so that's why you're seeing use cases expand, because we didn't have the capacity to even consider picking up those sorts of strategies.
Yeah, I mean, an annual review time. You have a voice agent talk to every employee in the company.
It could.
About where they want to go with their career, right? And it doesn't mean that something's going to happen tomorrow, but it gives you kind of a pulse on the organization. We're talking very abstractly here. Sure. These are use cases that I don't think anyone would have imagined 6, 7, 8 months ago.
No.
But they're here now. So it bars the question, or raises the question, I should say, is what type of questions can a voice agent truly answer, and how do they evaluate the candidate based upon that? Because we all know no two people are the same. And unless you're answering for a UPS driver, do you have a CDL, right? That's a very black and white question and answer. But there could be some other questions or answers that a candidate gives that may be a little bit more intricate. How does that all work?
Yeah, so think of it. This is the beautiful thing about the voice agents. It's an extension of the recruiter. So if the recruiter was on that phone screen, they would naturally progress to the next questions, right? And maybe they would iterate a little based on the response. The voice agent can do that too. So it can give you those yes, no's. Do you have a CDL? Mm-hmm. It can do that. Yeah. It can ask an open question. Why do you want this job? It can give you the multiple choices. It can ask you knockout questions even, where the candidate doesn't know that, but it is in your system once it's tracked to say like, oh, they were DQ'd because they answered this in the following way, right? You can still make that choice of, I want to pull them back in because of XYZ reason, right? But all those things, the flexible question choices is what makes voice agent successful, is because it's not rigid. It's not the chatbot path. Yes, no, maybe, it's not the automated phone menu path either.
That makes sense. Can you have the voice agent just immediately hang up on a candidate if they're being rude? I'm kidding.
Oh, that's a good question.
I'm definitely kidding. But a serious question along those same lines what are the current limitations when it comes to voice agents? Is there anything, we've talked about all the things they can do or potentially will do, but what can't they do right now?
Well, for Phenom, what can't they do is make decisions. Every AI agent or anything in our platform is not decision-based. It's keeping that recruiter directly in the loop. It's giving transparent responses. What did the candidate say? And the recruiter can decide, should you move forward or not, right? So it's not making decisions. Other things they can't do is, I don't even know how many languages there are in the world, but I'm told there's a lot.
There are.
So no, AI is not available in every single language. Yeah. So that could prohibit you if you're hiring in certain regions that may not be, the top 10, languages spoke. I suspect we'll see that changing very quickly. But that's definitely something to consider. Also, you need to have a phone.
Makes sense.
All right.
Yeah.
So, and in some places that's not all the time available. So you have to think about that as well.
Yeah. And this is strictly phone. There's no video aspect of it yet, because languages you mentioned, now I'm thinking of a voice agent that can detect sign language, right? And maybe that's down the line, but it doesn't sound like something that's happening today.
That's right.
Okay.
So it's the yet, because now we're seeing those use cases, right? Used to think, candidates are going to hate this. And so maybe the development would just fall off a cliff, right? If usage isn't there, you're not going to develop. But you're not seeing that. So now it's a yet. When is there video? When is there other things? It's a yet.
It's an exciting time. But a question that has to be asked with this new implementation of technology, I think we're having internal discussions on the marketing team about it, is how do we incorporate AI in our current workflows? How are teams approaching adding voice agents to their current workflows? Is there, it's going to be different for every team, I imagine, but what has been some of the discussion that you've heard?
Yeah, so it's really looking at the roles, right? Screening is a great tool for every single role you have, but the type of screening should vary for every single role you have. So you need to look at the roles. What are those roles that time is critical? Think nurses, right? With one less nurse, that's less care you can give on the floor. With one less salesperson, that's less revenue you can bring into your organization. So think of these roles that it's typically higher volume, roles that make a big, quick impact to the business. That's a role where, hey, let's unpack that. Let's talk about how successful are your recruiters when they are picking up the phone to do phone screens. Are you going to voicemail a lot? How can we embed these sorts of screening applications? Some people go, no, I'm screening fine things. I don't, this is not for me. My screening processes works. I get 200 applicants and I screen 50 and my hiring manager is happy with that. But here's the thing. Is that with that sort of approach, what you're not doing is giving all 200 applicants an opportunity. Why? You can't. There's not enough time for you to connect with Can you imagine? If you had to connect with every single applicant, it's not possible, right? Now you can actually scale that. And so imagine, even if you got 10 more candidates, what would that quality candidate look like at the end? So even though your hiring manager is satisfied with the interviews that you're passing over, you may not know what you're actually missing out on. And there lies that gem.
Yeah, those diamonds in the rough.
That's right. Yeah, that's how you have to be thinking, especially in some areas, where competition is fierce.
Yeah, and I think traditionally, when we think of the psyche of the candidate, they're going to apply for roles that they're not yet qualified for.
Sure.
They're always looking for that next step in their career, and a manual process for that. If you quick glance at a resume or quick glance at some sort of screening process, you could step over someone who is ready for that next step, right?
That's right.
Who is at that point in their career. They just haven't had an at-bat, an opportunity at the plate to get it done. I heard you went to the Savannah Bananas, so I had to work that in.
Thanks. Big fan.
Yeah, no, it makes sense, right? It's humans are always going to make the decisions at the end of the day, but it's trying to remove those human mistakes that happen, or give them just more capacity at the end of the day.
Or, with AI writing everything, including resumes, all of a sudden you want A candidates for all 200.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do?
Yeah.
Like seriously, what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
So that can help solve for that. So maybe you're getting these great resumes. Oh, I know I'm getting the right talent because look at these resumes, but you don't actually know if they have those skills. This voice agent can solve for some of that, right? And then knock out some that don't right away for you. And then that means you're getting those quality into the interviews. Your hiring managers are happier with you because the pool that you're sending are turning into hires and so on. So if you're going to approach it, that's how I would identify a role. Just let's go with one and then maybe expand it. And then maybe if you got that role down, hey, could you apply it regionally?
Mm-hmm.
If what you did in California, would that work in New York?
Yeah.
What would you have to change? Mm-hmm. So like think about it that way. Is there regional nuances that you want to address? Yeah. Once you do that, you'll really start to see change in your business. And you're like, you know what? This role, I kind of screen the same way as this role. And then, and then it's domino effect from there.
No, and you can get so intricate with some of these questions. Like I live 15 miles from the office. It is a much different 15 miles than I'm sure is 15 miles in Michigan or 15 miles in Iowa or wherever it may be. And when you're talking about those regional kind of tidbits there, it can get very granular, and you can drill in, with the candidate and have a transparent conversation.
That's right.
Outside of working hours. It says, hey, you mentioned that you live in Philadelphia. The commute's going to be an hour long, right? Is that something that you're comfortable with? And if the candidate says yes, awesome. If not, it's maybe this role isn't right for you, but we're going to keep your resume on file in case anything changes. Or
maybe the AI agent follows up to say like, okay, you're comfortable with that. Do you own a car?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How often do you hire a candidate and they're taking the train, and that's fine, right? But they didn't realize that's now a 2-hour commute.
I know. I don't have a car, Joanna, and I had to run home from work.
I have witnessed this. I can tell you that's a true statement.
I wouldn't recommend that, but you're absolutely right. These are all things that can build on it.
That's right.
I want to ask you, as we kind of look at this from an outsider's perspective, because neither of us are in talent acquisition dealing with candidates every day. How are candidates genuinely responding to this? Is it something that they're on board with? I think there's always going to be negative Nancy's everywhere. But overall, what has been the feedback so far? Yeah.
So for scale, let me tell you, the feedback is within the last 6 months. Let's start with that, right? This is not year over year data. Yeah. But actually what we're seeing has been very positive. Candidates aren't dropping off. They're not saying, I don't want to talk to a robot. I want to talk to a person. We're actually seeing conversion rates skyrocket to where a screening is happening 24 hours after they applied. Yeah. Like that is unheard of for a phone screen that's, very general, right? So we're seeing faster conversion rates because it's happening during non-recruiter hours. There's also, this is the beauty of AI and agents in an intelligent platform, is that you can embed touch points so you're not in the dark. You're not going, I hope my candidates like it. I got to report out to leadership and I hope I made the right choice. You can know. You can have those surveys know, how would you rate your experience? And so far, everything has been positive. The candidates can opt out and decide not to record their answers using their voice. There's a lot of security features in it for them too. But ultimately, the feedback has been the candidate is happy that they felt heard. They were excited. It built on that excitement of applying, and they were happy to move forward in the interview process.
I love that, building in touch points where it's, hey, your resume has been passed along to the hiring manager. It's an automated phone call that goes out. Do you have any questions? Are you still on the job market? Right? Like that is huge, especially if people are actively applying to positions.
That's right.
Things may change very quickly. And it just gives you an opportunity to speed up the process, keep people in the loop, and give recruiters time back in their day, because that's a lot of phone calls if you're moving
Oh
people
my
through
God.
the pipeline.
Yeah.
What are some challenges organizations should consider before adopting this, right? With great power comes great responsibility, as it's said in Spider-Man. Anything that organizations should look out for before they dive headfirst into voice AI?
Yeah, don't think I'm going to get it and put it on everything. Let's do it. Let's just apply it all. No more, let's rip out the phone lines, buy AT&T, whatever, or whoever, Cisco, it doesn't matter. No, don't just do that. Like I said, find your champions, your product champions, take a role. Even if it is a role that you hire for multiple regions, maybe you're narrowing it down to the Iowa use case. I don't know. Whoever's having those, those challenges, start there. Learn, watch it grow, right? See how those responses, have them report back. Having an intelligent platform that shows every stage of the process is super crucial, because unlike going to different point solutions, how this do, you can see it throughout the process, right? You can see if this is working for you and what you need to change. Are you getting candidates not complete it for some reason? If so, why is that? You can look at those sorts of things so you're set up for success from the get-go.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And the only other thing that I'd add is, because we have to, there's people are crazy. It does not make any decisions for you. It will not decline a candidate by any means. That still has to be done by a human. I just like to, I'm overly cautious now.
You should.
Sometimes I've said some things on here I shouldn't. So anyway, I want to ask you one final question.
Yes.
And it's a fun one.
Oh, okay, fine.
What do you think is one of the coolest innovations about the latest generation of voice AI? Is there any features or capabilities that particularly stand out to you?
Yes. So one of my favorite features of voice AI is the customization. So, if you play Minecraft or any of those big games, right? You love to make your avatar. So if you thought about that as your organization, what is my brand?
Yeah.
Like you talked about Francis. Francis doesn't have a voice yet, does he?
No.
But what would he sound like?
It's to be
determined, right?
Yeah.
But that's something you do as a brand.
Yep.
You can think about the tone. Do you want them to have a regional accent? If you're hiring in London, should they have a British accent? If you're hiring in Jersey, should you have a Jersey accent?
We have enough Mike DeMarcos already. But yeah.
There's never enough Mike DeMarcos. But you can think about that. So you can really customize what is your brand story, right? That's bringing more shareholders into the talent acquisition process. And when you see that happens, when there's more owners, right? There's more accountability throughout it. There's more people that care. So that's really cool that you could have a crazy fast talker, a really slow talker. You could have, if you're hiring for early talent roles, you could have a younger sounding voice if that's what you wanted. You can really cater to your ideal candidate. So think of your ideal candidate and think, what would they want? And you could actually deliver that.
Yeah, no, that's very cool. This slow voice, that reminds me of Dory from Finding Nemo, where she talks to the whales.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure, you could do that.
You can. No, I think that is fascinating too. If you are hiring regionally or whatever it may be, to customize that piece, I'm sure there's capabilities where you can add your unique tidbits about your culture.
Absolutely.
Right? How Ambler is a booming metropolis, right? Nobody else would say that except for Phenoms. So you can add that piece in there if you'd like to make it unique and different from, some of the voice operating systems that we talked about before.
Yeah, that's right.
So this has been awesome. I am super excited. I think if we have time, we might show a clip here of the voice agent in action. So we'll air that clip right now.
Let's go ahead and see the voice AI agent in action with a live demo. I'm going to go ahead and give the agent a call.
Hi, this is Rachel, a virtual recruiting agent calling from Clover Market. Am I talking to Tony?
Actually, it's Mike.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for clarifying that. You requested a call for the cashier position. Before we proceed, do I have your consent to continue with this brief screening call?
Yeah, that sounds great. But before we jump in, can you tell me if I'm going to need to work on weekends?
You'll be required to work one Saturday shift per month and one holiday a year, depending on store needs. Does that work for you?
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks.
Great. Let's get started with a couple of quick questions to confirm your eligibility. Are you legally authorized to work in the United States?
Yeah, I am.
Fantastic. Can you tell me a bit more about your previous roles and responsibilities?
Well, before we get going, I'm wondering, could you just tell me a little bit about the company culture?
Clover Market values customer experience, employee growth, innovation, and efficiency, as well as inclusivity and work-life balance. We focus on ensuring a great shopping experience for customers while supporting our team members' development in a diverse and supportive workplace. Now, back to my question. Can you tell me about your previous roles and responsibilities?
Yeah, sure. In the past, I actually was a store manager at a retail location, and I managed a team of upwards of 10 people. Some of them were mainly on the floor, while others were cashiers. So I have a lot of experience training up and managing a cashier, a register.
Your experience sounds great. The next step is an in-person interview with the store manager. Are you available on Saturday at 10 a.m.?
No, I'm not around at 10 a.m. Do you got anything in the afternoon?
I can offer you an alternative slot on Saturday at 4 p.m. Does that work for you?
That sounds great.
Perfect. I will send you an invite for Saturday at 4 p.m. We look forward to meeting you in person. Thank you, Mike.
Awesome.
Take care.
Thank you.
See soon.
And just like that, within 2 minutes, I was able to have a natural conversation with a voice AI agent. And I was able to get qualified and ask questions to make sure that this was a job that I wanted to get after.
There it is. Thank you so much, Joanna, for joining. This has been an awesome conversation. I appreciate it. You're far less nervous than when you were the first couple times. You are relaxed, calm, cool, and collected. Can't wait to have you back on the program again. And we'll talk about the latest innovation of events or voice AI or
Who
whatever
knows?
you would like to. But thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. We'll see you next Thursday. Bye.